You're tuned into Reading with Robin, where it's always fun to have a return author because we had so much fun the first time. Karen Cleveland is back with her new book. It's called Keep You Close. She and I spoke about her last book, Need to Know. We were just saying, like a year and a half ago, where does the time go, right? It's crazy. I know. I'm like, I feel like I just read that. And then, of course, I read them way earlier, so then I really have no sense of time. Karen Cleveland is a former CIA analyst. She has master's degrees from Trinity College Dublin, where she studied as a Fulbright scholar, and from Harvard University. She lives in Northern Virginia with her husband and her 2 young children, and it is a thrill to have you back on Reading with Robin.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's always fun to have. I remember receiving the email from your publicist telling me that you had a new book, and I do have just very fond memories. And it was, many books ago and months ago in the book world. I don't know, the time continuum is a bizarre thing, but certain books just stick with you. So for those of you who have not read the first book, you need to know, you need to read that. I love the title. And what's going on with the movie plans with that?
So the movie rights were optioned by Universal Studios with Charlize Theron attached to produce and star. So I think it's kind of moving forward as far as I know. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. It'd be pretty cool to get to see that on the screen, and she's such an amazing actress.
It would be so amazing to see it on the screen, and the way you write, and I know with Keep You Close, the music in the book was speaking to me. So some really cool music. Do you listen to music while you're writing? Is that inspiring?
I actually prefer silence when I'm writing. I think it's a little bit easier for me to write when it's quiet.
Yeah, I always prefer silence. You might find that surprising, but it is true. I do. And you can find more about Karen at Karen-Cleveland.com, and you can find her on Facebook and on Twitter. Are you on Instagram or no?
I'm not on Instagram, no.
Okay. That's
Facebook
fine.
and Twitter.
Not a judgment, just a question. So your boys you were saying they're 5 and 3. I mean, so how does training in the CIA prepare you for motherhood, or does it?
I guess, you're trained to sort of handle whatever comes at you. So I guess that's useful training for young kids. But yeah, I really did enjoy working at the CIA, and I do miss it a bit. I love that, I get to write full time now, but those were some good times.
I can only imagine the stories that you get to use in your writing. I'm sure some of them people wouldn't believe could possibly even happen. I mean, so in your writer brain, as opposed to the analyst side, I mean, how did those come together to put out these amazing stories? Because if you write it, I'm going to read it. That's the deal.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. But, I think that you do kind of see a lot of what goes on, and just what people are doing in different parts of the agency, and so much is happening there. And, I got the chance to work on rotation to the FBI for a while I was there, too, which was also a fascinating experience. And I drew on that a bit for this novel, Keep You Close, which is about FBI agent. So it was kind of neat to see things from that side as well.
So nobody can slip anything by you, I would think. Are you always sort of on alert? Is that part of the training? Or?
Yeah, I guess you are sort of trained to realize that, everyone's intentions are not always good, and that people could try to get close to you for the wrong reasons. And, I think that kind of fed a lot into my first novel, Need to Know, where, everybody isn't who they say they are. And, but yeah, that is something that you're trained to look for.
And that's the thing that's so interesting about reading these books and knowing what your background and how that works. I mean, because real life experience finds its way into writing and things that keep us up at night. And, in the first book, all the secrets that are hidden, and is this person who you think they are, and then how far will you go to keep yourself safe, somebody safe, all of these stories. And in this book, it's a mother and a son, and that is quite, who do you choose? How do you choose? We're never going to give away spoilers, especially in a thriller. So I'm like being very careful about what I say. But we can, there is plenty that we can say without giving anything away. What I will say is you do not want to miss Keep You Close. It's just what I hoped because I was such a fan and am such a fan of Need to Know. So I'm really thrilled to share this one, and I know that the readers just gobble these books up because this is the kind of one, these are the books that I sit with and I have to know, and I do try and guess a little bit, which I never used to do. So I'm thinking while I'm reading. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. And, it's nice to hear that people have that experience. And I always like that as a reader, too, to try to kind of figure out where a story is going.
Well, and how
I was just going to say that was sort of my inspiration for this particular book. When I was writing Need to Know, I really did like dealing with that question of kind of how well you know the people closest to you, what lengths you'd go to protect the people you love the most. So when it came time to write a second novel, I wanted to write something that was different than Need to Know with a different protagonist, but I also wanted to deal with those same questions.
Yeah, and thinking about, I love the protagonist in Need to Know. Why am I blanking on her name right now?
Vivian.
Yes, thank you. I did know it, but I forgot. And Stephanie, I love your protagonist. And in Keep You Close, a mother and a child. What connection is tighter than that? So, as a mother, what was it like writing about Stephanie and her son Zachary? My kids are young, obviously, 5 and 3, right. And she has a teenage son in the novel. So that's something that I haven't experienced firsthand, but, I can remember back to being a teenager myself and, seeing other parents with their teenagers. And it's just such an interesting time in life where, I think as a teenager, you sort of want to close yourself off from people. Mm-hmm. And Steph in the book is sort of, her personality is sort of to close herself off from people too. So I think that kind of complicates that natural tendency to have some distance between a parent and a child. So it was an interesting dynamic to write about. And also, back in whatever time period before social media, certainly, there were different ways to be closed off, and now parents have secret accounts so they can spy on their kids, and then there's all this, hacking that goes on. There's so much, and we can try and explain to kids that things are really never private and all of this. So there's and Stephanie sees the side of, kids are kids, and we don't always know everything about everybody. So it can be pretty surprising if you're going to do some sleuthing to find certain things out. And, as a mother, it can be cringeworthy, or as a kid, it's horrifying. I don't know. But it's interesting to read because a mother wants to know what's going on. And that much it won't give anything away to set up why she's trying to find things out about her son.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She discovers a loaded gun in his bedroom, and then she kind of realizes that he's on the FBI's radar. And so the story just kind of goes from there, and sort of she has to ask herself how well she really knows him and what she would do to protect him.
And interestingly, back and forth in her own history and things that happened in the past, in her career, in her personal life, and the way secrets are so cleverly buried. And there's a very interesting relationship she has with her mother. Well, all relationships are interesting, but it was heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time to read about that relationship and tie in the Me Too movement, because Stephanie has an experience as a young woman in Washington, and that drives part of the story.
Yeah, I wanted to acknowledge the Me Too movement in some way. I think it's almost hard to write a novel now, or, in the past year or two, especially one that's set in Washington, D.C., and it deals with power and a woman in a male-dominated field, and not somehow acknowledge the movement. And, as far as her relationship with her mother, that's something that actually changed a lot from the first draft. In my first draft, the mother was sort of a minor player, and she turned into a much bigger one. Oh. And it was an editing call, and it was a great one, because this is a book about a complicated mother and child relationship. So I think adding in sort of a second mother and child relationship, a second complicated relationship, was a really interesting way to go.
It is. And so talk about that a little bit, because that relationship between writer and editor is so key to the final product. And I'm on the phone with the author of Keep You Close, Karen Cleveland. Visit her site at karen-cleveland.com. You can find her on Facebook and on Twitter. And, so how did you come to that moment? Was the first draft read and it was discussed like, we want to see more from this mother-daughter relationship?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky because I'm surrounded by such good people. My agent's a great editor, and then I had just, the fantastic editor, Kate Misiak, with this book. And
yes, that's key.
Yeah, it really is. And so, I trust these people so much, and when they see something that could make the novel better, like I want to run with it, and I want to make the novel as good as I can.
So you're not like, well, no, it's due and I'm finished, so we'll just leave it there.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Right? I mean, because you hear sometimes from, there are deadlines, there are pressures, there are all sorts of projects going on, but I love when an author talks about how much better the book is for whichever reason, depending on, that it needed more time, different perspective, more characters, somebody taken out even. I mean, sometimes that happens where you like a part, but it just doesn't serve the story, and then you need to let that go. And that's, how often were you and your editor in touch while you were writing this? Because you also turned this around pretty quickly, I would think, after Need to Know, unless you had it just, I don't know if you wrote them in tandem or...
I started this after I finished Need to Know. I think I tend to do better when I just sort of sit down and kind of write something, on my own to begin with, and then kind of get other people's take on it after I'm at a certain point. So once I did start getting feedback from other people, it was really helpful to strengthen things.
And so what was different about this experience, writing your second novel?
When I wrote Need to Know, I didn't know if anybody would ever read it. It was obviously, I hoped that people would, and I hoped something would happen with it, but I didn't really have any expectations. So I just sort of felt like I was writing something that I wanted to write, and almost kind of more for myself. And with this one, I had more of a sense that people would read it eventually. So it was just a different feeling, but
now you have readers, and you have people that you knew were excited to receive the next book. This one was, Need to Know was so well received. So coming out of the gate strong like that, people are very excited to hear about Keep You Close. And it's just out, and I'm speaking to author Karen Cleveland. And again, visit her site at karen-cleveland.com and go to her Facebook page and like it. I always tell readers, if you want to do something nice for your authors, for the authors in your life, please do all the nice things. Go to Amazon, Goodreads, put up a nice review, please, and also follow and like and share the books with your friends. I always like to put in a little PSA to remind readers that, share that. Share the good stuff.
Well, that's nice. It's nice to hear. It's nice to hear good feedback about things. But, I know I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it matters. And I like to remind people that it really does matter. So you've got this book out. Now, are you working on the next one?
I am, yes. So
okay, good. We won't ask too much, but I'm glad to know that. Good.
Yeah, it's I'm having fun with it. It's a fun one to write. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I can wait. You don't have to tell us any more than that. Now, do you know the ending of the story when you're beginning it? When you're sitting down to write to plot it out?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I'm more of an outliner, so I think it helps me to kind of know where I'm going with the story, and things definitely change along the way for me, but I think just having a sense of kind of, the major plot points and also sort of how it will end is helpful to me.
So you're not one of these authors that's like, I had no idea where the character was going, and then they told me. You've heard this before, right?
But I have heard that, yeah. But
they've spoken to me.
But I think kind of as you get into it, I think sometimes what you expect a character might do does sort of change, and you kind of think, well, maybe they wouldn't do that. But as far as kind of the big stuff, I tend to have a sense of what's going to happen.
Right. That doesn't. So it's surprising the reader. That's the idea. But you are in charge at all times of the vehicle. Is that correct, Karen Cleveland? You know what's going to happen. I just I find all of the when whether an author is a lawyer and is writing legal thrillers, or in your case, being part of the CIA, as an analyst and also having FBI experience. Do you ever read other books and think, okay, that would never happen? If people are using things that you've been long associated with or organizations, and then you read it in a book, does that sort of, you put it down and go, that couldn't have happened, or they didn't do their research, or that sort of thing?
I think with any industry you've sort of been a part of, if you're reading about that industry, you'll sometimes see things that aren't too realistic. But I think part of the fun of reading is just suspending reality also, and kind of just enjoying the story and where it takes you. So I think I'm usually able to do that.
Yeah, it's funny because somebody asked us last night. We had an event what we thought of the TV show Younger. I don't know if you've seen it. And it's about it's about the industry, about publishing industry, and we love the show. It's fabulous. It's on Lifetime, I think. I don't know. They're coming back this summer. They're in their 4th or 5th. I don't remember even which season. And it's really great, but they don't have anybody in publicity. It's all marketing. I don't know. There's not one publicist on the show. And it's all about an imprint, and a publishing company with different imprints. So it's really fun. It's really insidery and just a great, characters and all that's great, but it just doesn't ring true. So you do have to suspend belief is the point. Yeah. If you're able to, I don't know, sometimes we're still like, that just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't know I don't know. But that's the thing when I'm reading and it's a courtroom drama and I know the author has experience there, it's just, I think maybe it's just a sense that it rings extra true because you just, like you say, you just want to be turning those pages and enjoying the story. Talk about Scott a little bit.
Yeah, so he's somebody who she was in a past relationship with, and he's sort of a friend/colleague now. And, because of sort of events in her past and just the course her life has taken, she has sort of a hard time developing relationships with people. And so that's kind of another complicated relationship in the book. And he was a character I enjoyed writing about as well. I thought that was sort of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and when complicated relationships certainly make for wonderful storytelling, and I guess when you start to see the way characters interact and have some of the backstory, which you weave in so beautifully, their relationship starts to make sense. Even in the beginning of the book where Steph has to go and give a dress down to a subordinate or somebody that she had worked with, right? And it's awkward. They're in a bar. And did something like that ever happen to you where you had to do that?
No personal experience with that, but it seemed to sort of fit with her character. And she's in a senior position in the Bureau, and, that's kind of part of her responsibilities is to sort of do that.
Well, that has to be awkward, policing your own in general.
Yeah.
We all watch SVU, so we know.
Definitely.
And what are you reading for pleasure? Or if you have extra time right now between everything that you're doing, So I finished a couple of books recently. The Escape Room by Megan Golden. It comes out in August, I think. Oh, I'll have to look for that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was really good. And The Perfect Wife by J.P. Delaney.
Yeah.
That's coming out soon as well.
Yes. That was a really, I read that one last fall.
I really liked them both. I thought they were both page turners and a lot of fun.
So you like to write what you like to read?
Yeah. I like things that kind of that just have a fast pace, and you got to kind of try to figure out what's happening in the story, and
Well, I think that's one of the most entertaining parts about reading is catching the clues, but also as a writer knowing where to drop them and it's the pace of the book. And this book has such a fabulous pace, and it's keep you close, and it's a book that you were going to want to read and tell your friends about and share. It's great book club pick. There are some book clubs I know that like specifically like domestic suspense, thriller, that sort of thing. It's a Karen Cleveland hit. That's what it is. It's another winner. You're welcome. Well, it just stinks that we can't talk about the whole book because that would ruin it, and it's just out. So we can't. So we really can't do that. We can't do that. I love the scene too. Well, I can say this because this isn't ruining anything. Where she brings, Steph brings home Thai food to try and get her son to talk. So he's really sort of shutting himself off, as teens can do. But he's also searching for something. And there's a lot going on with him. But the visual of like bringing home the food and like just trying to see if I thought the tension was there. Are we going to talk? Are we going to eat? Are we going to, we're going to get up from the table? Are we going to have seconds? We're not going, like that sort of thing.
Glad it kind of rings true. That's good.
It did, plus Thai food. Who doesn't want to read about that?
Exactly.
So what I always imagine, like, and whether it's like late nights at the office when you see a movie, and they always have the cartons come out, and it just looks better there. It's been a long day. Nobody wants to cook. Everyone's got to be fed,
true, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, some of my favorite movies, that's like the end. That's that scene, like with the Taken. It's that kind of thing. So, and what are you looking forward to reading? What's next on your stack?
Right now I'm sort of laser focused on book 3 and trying to get to kind of a good point with this before I dig into something else. So I don't know what's next. There's so many things that I want to read. Do you have any suggestions for me?
Oh, well, I absolutely do. It's funny, though. Like, why, yes, I do, Karen. Funny you should say so. Because I've been reading so many different kinds of books. We've read a lot of memoir. We also host a monthly author series in Rhode Island. And so we bring 4 authors in each month. It's called the Cardigan Connection. So we read those books as well. So we've had some fabulous memoir. Danny Shapiro's Inheritance was just amazing, fabulous book. So very different than, it's a memoir, so very different, but really fascinating about her ancestry and what she finds actually as a tie-in, really, to Zachary doing his DNA testing to find something out. I didn't even think of that. There's that connection. Susan Jane Gilman's Donna Has Left the Building comes out in June, and it was fabulous. And we happen to be hosting Susie in June at one of my events. Big fan of her memoir. And then her first novel was The Ice Cream Queen of Orchard Street. So Donna Has Left the Building. I've been reading such great stuff. I can't keep up. I mean, there are just so many books that I want to get to, and it's impossible. So we do our best.
It is. There's so much good stuff out there.
There really I know. I sometimes say that, like, can everybody just stop writing for a second? Publishers love to hear that. But it is. It's just impossible. And I every once in a while will run into somebody who will, ask if I've read something and I haven't, because how can, it may not be for me.
There's no way to read it all. Yeah.
Right, but they if there's like the secret joy in saying, you haven't read so-and-so. No, I have not. And a lot of really great nonfiction. Lori Gottlieb's book, You Should Talk to Someone, it's called. It's about, she's a therapist and her therapist, and it's called, You Should Talk to Someone. It was really good. And, all of my shows are up on iTunes, so sometimes the ones I'm talking about, I've interviewed the author so I can quickly look and remember what I've read, because we had an event last night, and the book was read, maybe 18 months ago. So it's really tricky. I have to try and remember what's out now when people ask what they should read. Because it's such a tease to say, oh, this book, you're going to love it. Oh, it's out next February. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm chatting with Karen Cleveland. Her novel is called Keep You Close. It's a brand new thriller out, and you can visit her site at karen-cleveland.com. What's the best way for people to reach you? Tweet at you or send you Facebook messages?
Yeah, maybe a Facebook message.
Okay, and people should also like the Facebook page and tell your friends and keep you close. And this is so much fun to chat with you again. Anytime you have a book out, I look forward to chatting with you. So.
Oh, I'd like that.
Yes. So to keep this relationship going, you just keep writing. And I look forward to meeting you one of these days.
Yeah, I do too.
Even better. And I love the quote at the beginning from Oscar Wilde: "The truth is rarely pure and never simple." And that is.
I think it fits for the book. It's
perfect.
I think the truth can be pretty complicated sometimes.
I know, right? That's why people lie.
That's true.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.